Hey, what's going on, Guardians? TBL here, and with the Age of Triumph in full swing, we now get to enjoy full vendor weapon resets every single week for the rest of this game. And that being the case, every week we're going to try to bring you reviews and recommendations for the best rolled weapons that you can find. And this week, we're going to be taking a look at one of the weapons being sold by the New Monarchy vendor, the Assembly 2 Auto Rifle. We'll discuss the weapon's vendor role, how well it performs in PvE and PvP, and give you our recommendation for whether or not you should pick it up. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on in. The Assembly 2 is a bullet hose auto rifle in the 100 rate of fire 2 impact tier. This gives it an optimal time to kill of about 0.87 seconds, which is about 13 critical hits and 1 body shot, which can admittedly be a little bit difficult to pull off consistently. Thankfully, it's also got a pretty fast body shot time to kill of about 1.07 seconds, or about 17 body shots. And thankfully, with the rate of fire that this thing provides, that isn't too difficult to achieve. In my opinion, the weapon's strongest point is in its massive base aim assist stat of 83. And if you can get yourself a pretty decent stability variant of it, this thing can roll pretty well in the Crucible. But let's go ahead and talk about the vendor version. It comes with Red Dot Aurora 2, Sure Shot Iron Sights, which does boost this gun's aim assist even further, and the OEG Rifle Scope. The first perk tree has got your choice of Quick Draw and Flared Magwell, followed up by Perfect Balance and Spray and Play, and finally the all too important Counterbalance perk to wrap things up. This is actually a pretty decent roll of this gun. The big ticket items here are, of course, the mixture of Perfect Balance and Counterbalance. Counterbalance essentially makes all of the recoil from this weapon strictly vertical, meaning the weapon will kick straight up, while Perfect Balance gives you a nice little boost of stability to help you stay on target just a little bit more. And believe me, that extra stability is very much appreciated on this weapon. Like most other bullet hoses, the Assembly 2 kicks like a horse. So having those stability options there definitely helps to keep this thing on target. Though you'll likely only really find use for this thing in PvE at very close to maybe mid-range. For the column 2 perks, you're probably going to want to go with Quick Draw over Flared Magwell. The reload speed on auto rifles is already pretty quick, and just being able to draw those sights a little bit faster is probably going to give you a little bit more utility in PvP. And for the sights, well, there's really no other choice besides Sure Shot here. Thankfully, those sights aren't really that intrusive, and the bonus to aim assist that you get for using it is definitely a leg up for this gun. Now, in PvE, well, you're really not going to find too much use for this archetype of weapon in general. Bullet hoses just don't really do that much damage, and you have to waste multiple magazines sometimes just to kill a single enemy. And that's not a problem with the Assembly 2, it's just the nature of this type of weapon. Bullet hoses in general are more useful as high burst damage weapons in close range in PvP, where they can be used to stagger sights and burn down guardians who are maybe rushing towards you to try to get a quick special kill. Now, I gotta admit, I was not really looking forward to using this thing in PvP. I'm just not really that fond of a lot of guns in this archetype. But in certain game modes, the Assembly really surprised me with how well it could work in close range situations. Well, at least when you're not going up against somebody who already has special ammo for like a sidearm or a shotgun. Although I suppose even in those situations, I was oftentimes able to outrange them. Like I said before, close to mid-range is where this gun's gonna shine. I wouldn't rely too much on trying to get that optimal time to kill of about 0.87 seconds. Landing those 13 crit shots can definitely be a challenge with the amount of recoil on this weapon. But up close, you can just unload into people and throw their sights completely for a loop. And thankfully, the mixture of Counterbalance and Perfect Balance at least makes this recoil mostly tenable. With the way this gun works and the amount of aim assist it has, I almost feel like Persistence might have been a better perk for it, since you'll be firing for a while before you get a kill, and Persistence activates to help you stay on target through those engaged long-term encounters a little bit better. But Counterbalance is still a fantastic choice, since again, this thing is going to kick straight up, and thankfully that's the easiest type of recoil to control. Now, unfortunately, when put up against other primaries, this is when the Assembly's flaws and vulnerabilities start to show themselves. Hand cannons, well, as usual, are probably going to stomp all over you, as in general they've got better range, better burst damage, and can jump in and out of cover while they're firing. Not to mention that the base range for the Assembly 2 is actually pretty bad, being the second lowest in its archetype. That low range is basically going to force you to stay in close combat with your enemies, as you won't be able to deal enough damage further out, nor will you really be able to competently keep your sights on people while firing this thing. And that's definitely a limiting factor to how well you can use this weapon. So make sure you pair it with a decent special weapon that can cover for some of those weaknesses. But again, as a close range auto rifle, it ain't bad. It ain't bad at all. Now, admittedly, it doesn't quite hit the same levels of utility as the better auto rifles in this archetype, so like the Soul Stealer's Claw, the Doctrine of Passing, and the Arminius D. But the Assembly 2's decent optimal and suboptimal time to kill mixed in with a great aim assist and a pretty darn good perk roll from the new Monarchy this week makes this gun definitely worthy of a purchase if you're a fan of the bullet hose archetype of auto rifles in PvP. But alright, that's it for this one, Guardians. That is your mini review of this week's variant of the new Monarchy auto rifle, the Assembly 2. If you're pledged to the new Monarchy, you can pick it up from Executor Hideo for 150 legendary marks. But alright, do you guys like the Assembly 2? Be sure to let us know what you guys think of this weapon down in the comment section below. And thanks so much for watching. As always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.